We're rolling.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Blackstock. Here. Blair.
Here.
Horn. Here. Pat Salas. Here. Oda.
Here.
Town. Here. Simons.
Here. All present. Kathy, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Is there anybody that has anything to add or delete from the agenda? If not, motion to approve the agenda as presented would be in order.
I'll make that motion. We approve the agenda as presented.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported that we approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the approval of the minutes of September 5, 2017.
Since there's no additions, deletions, or corrections, I'll make a motion to approve the September 5th, 2017 meeting minutes.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we approve the minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next we have the public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to talk about anything that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have the C1, August 2017 Rain City Fire Report. We have the C2, which is the August 2017 Building Department Report. C3 is the September 7th, 2017 Beautification Committee Minutes. And C4 is the August 2017 Investment Income Report.
If there are no questions or comments on the consent agenda, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll support.
Moved and supported that we accept the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to disbursements, we have invoices of $253,122.94. We have accounts payable of $29,046.37, and we have a payroll of $536.85. We have a direct deposit payroll of $29,226.20. We have the EFTs at $10,359.96. And we have the tax bill of $10,173,041.91 for a total disbursement of $10,495,334.23.
I make a motion that we expect pay the bills in the amount of $10,495,334.23.
I support.
It's been moved and supported that we pay the bills in the $10,495,334.23. Any further discussion? I'd just like to add that that's the tax money. As we collect the tax money and addition it out, that's not actually our bills.
Awesome.
So, hearing none, roll call please.
Blair.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Pat Salas.
Yes.
Oda.
Yes.
Town. Yes. Blackstock.
Yes.
Simons.
Yes, motion carries. We pay the bills. Okay, next we're moving on to new business is the North Water Tower fencing. We were able to get 3 proposals for that. Let me explain a little bit of the history on that. As you know, we passed a motion to put those agitating pumps in the North Tower, and we had budgeted a line item for that in our 2017 budget. And there's money left in that line item from what the mixers, they call them mixers, or agitators or mixers. There's money left in there from what we budgeted. So Dwayne, our water superintendent, thought that we should look at replacing some of that fencing. I went up there with him, we looked at it. You can crawl underneath it, you can crawl through it. It was put in there when the water tower was put in. A lot of the poles have heaved. Blaine bid it was to use the existing poles, straighten them. A couple of them that have to be replaced and a couple added. And then put all new fence on it, all new fabric and new barbed wire across the top. So, you can see the three bids in your...
The poles that are on there right now, Larry, are they, there's only 4 poles, isn't there?
Oh, no. Well, it's a square, and there's 4 corner poles, and then there's probably 6 in between each corner pole.
Are they in good shape, or,
Well,
or we can have issues
what
with
we
that?
were told is those poles are better pipe than you can buy today. They're thicker, and they're not bent. There's one that's, one of the top pieces, or a couple of the top pieces that hold the barbed wire are broke, so they'll have to replace those. But they're trying to use as much as what they can to keep the cost down. And we bid the same specs to each one of them. I believe the first one is all around fence at $3,650.
It's the shipping channel fence company, they're at 5,000. Nationwide is at 5482. Have we used any of these companies before, Larry?
Well, yes, we've used all around fence before. It was a few years ago, and we've used shipping channel quite a bit in the park. They're 5,000. And then the National Fence, did you say that was?
Nationwide.
Or Nationwide, yes, 5,482. So those are your 3 bids that Blaine got.
The 2 are pretty close, but then you've got that third one at 3,600, that's quite a bit less. For just the same amount, the same project.
Have you used those guys, Jim?
No.
I think Blaine talked to them down there in Clay, and they've used them down there. We used them, they said, a while ago.
Does Blaine have a preference?
No, Blaine said it didn't matter to him. So,
I'll make a motion that we go with the low bidder all around fence for $3,650.
And I'll support that motion.
Then moved and supported that we go with all around fence as a low bid. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Horn.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Town, yes. Blackstock.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Simons.
Yes, motion carries. Moving on is the MERS rates. I talked about this, we had that little workshop. In April 1 of 2018, we're going to be asked to go to 29.66% on our MERS payment. I think right now it's 26 point something. In that little workshop we had, they had talked about, you know, to catch up, you could go to the 32.42%. Does the board want to make an action on that, or do you want to keep it at just what they're mandating, or what is your preference on that? I'd like to have a decision one way or the other if I'm going to do any more work on it.
Still something a Ponzi scheme.
We're going to have to do something either now or in the future, so I think we ought to do something with it. Increase it some anyhow.
Well, I'll tell you, we're working on the new budget right now, and we figured the new budget with that. We could always take it out, but we just, for figure purposes, we're figuring it at the 32.42%, and seeing how we can make the numbers work.
Would that be the ratio for the 20-year amount then, Larry? Is that the one you're talking about, the 42%?
32.
32%.
Well, it'll probably be a different number in another year. So, I mean, this is the number they're saying to catch up for this year. You're not gonna, our unfunded liability is $3.5 million or more.
It can't let me get any further.
It gets more every year. I mean, I don't think we're staying caught up. We're getting behind.
Well, a year ago, we were at 21 point something, and then this last April, they jumped us to 26.
Right.
Now, next April, they're gonna jump us to 29. And probably the following April, they could be jumping us to the 32.
So I'm just saying that the 26% where they have us, we're still losing ground.
Oh,
We're
yeah,
still losing ground.
most definitely. That's why the unfunded liability keeps going up. But I'm not saying that the 32 is gonna turn it to the other way. There's other factors in there that have to be considered as, what the economy does with our money we have over there. We've got, I think, $7 million over there.
Why don't we wait until they figure out the budget and see what we're gonna have in the budget?
Well, I gotta have a number to figure the budget. I can either figure it at the 29, or I figured it at the high end, so we can always take it down.
Right.
And we wouldn't probably do it until April anyways.
Because the more we pay into it, the less it's gonna have to cost us in the future.
I think we paid up 32%, 32.42, and reevaluate it at the end of next year and see where we're at, and see how it's going, see if it's
You
up
say
for.
put a table for now? Or?
No, go with the 32,
Okay.
and then at the end of the first year, we can see, and if we're still losing ground, then we have to raise that up.
Yeah,
Well, let's try it for a
I
year.
agree.
That's what they suggested in the, you were there, Don, at the meeting. Mr. Town, you were there. Who else was there?
I was there.
So, that's why, just give me direction, what way you want me to go with this.
I think you ought to phase in the highest, then we can always drop it down.
Right, like Angel said, let's try it for a year and see where we end up.
That's right, that's how I
Okay.
have to agree.
Is that a motion then, Angel?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we raise our mayor's contribution to 32.42, starting April 1st of 2018.
I'll support that.
Which one?
One of them. Tom? Okay, does everybody understand what we're talking about here? Okay, with that, roll call, please.
That's Alice.
Yes.
ODOT.
Yes.
Down, yes. Blackstock.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Simons.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, moving on now to asset management for the water and the sewer. This is our new engineer, John Monte and Anthony Theodoro. You guys would like to go up to the podium?
Sure.
I don't know if you've met everybody on the board, Kathy Blair, Herb Blackstock, Greg Town, our clerk, myself, Don Boda, Angela Pasalis, and Don Horn.
Well, good evening. First of all, I want to thank you guys for giving us an opportunity to provide you with engineering services. I realize that that was a tough decision. You had been with your engineering company for quite a few years, which is something we all want, to develop a relationship like that. And hopefully we can develop that same relationship with you, and you'll trust us in the end. And I feel confident that that's going to happen. We've started things off, and I know one of the things that you always kind of worry about is, we've been with an engineering company for a long period of time. How are we going to transfer information? Are we going to be able to lose information? Do we need to stay with them because they've got all of our info? Well, just so you know, Anthony here kind of specializes in water and wastewater, so he's already toured your plants. He's talked to your people. He's been gathering some drawings already, and what we're finding is you have some pretty good information. So I just want you to be comfortable in the fact that knowing that I don't think that we're going to miss a stroke. I think that we're going to be able to pick up and continue on without an issue. So you should feel confident in that. We've already started looking at a few other things, and I know the agenda item here is the asset management, which you have a proposal in front of you. I'm going to let Anthony explain that in a second. But we've also been looking at a few other things. I met with Larry one day, we talked about some of the things that are going on. And we're already looking at and we'll be back to you with some more information on your urban drive pump station. That seems to be the sanitary station is a large priority, and we're kind of digging into that, and we'll be back with you on what we think we can do with that. We're working at the water and wastewater plant with some control issues that they have right now, so we'll also be back to you with some information on that. We're very in depth on all of these things right now of gathering some background and making sure we can come back to you with something solid. We're also taking a look at the water plant right now. The heating system in the water plant is extremely erratic. It's in the building, and so we were asked if we could just take a look at that and maybe put something together on what could be done there. And one of the things is, I know you have a sewer and water authority, and I'm going to plan to attend that next meeting. I think your previous engineering firm attended those meetings, so we'll do that as well and participate the best we can. So in the meantime, Anthony here can kind of take you through what the asset management plan is and what needs to be done.
Thanks. Yeah, so the first item is to get us the most time considering with the deadline. And so the asset management plan is something that it is a part of the Safe Drinking Water Act. So they established this deadline that everyone was supposed to conform to these requirements, and they sent out to all the water and wastewater plants, anyone with a permit. These items need to be completed in this fashion by the 1st of January 2018. So it's kind of like fast approaching. But luckily, I mean, we were doing this already with other communities. And so the EPA already has a software that they developed. It's a free software. And so it helps us to have a place to bring all this information into, and then that creates for us a report. And we have one plant in New Baltimore's report they had a special deadline of the end of July, so we already finished one with that software. So it was pretty helpful, and allowed us to have that overview that immediately brings all the numbers and asset replacement cost and potentiality of failure and all that factored in the software. So yeah, we just need to do that, and your operators have decided that for the drinking water, for the plant and the distribution system, they're going to do that themselves. I believe they're going to use that software. They just needed some help. They couldn't just attack it all at once. So they asked us to step in and help with the collection system, the sewer collection system. So that's what this proposal does, is we get that done for them in that.
And we're mandated by the DEQ to have this done by January 1st of 2018.
Yeah, so not that far away.
Now, what would it cost if you guys did the water too? Would that be equally as expensive, or the water's not as expensive because you don't have all those lift stations to deal with?
If it had because distribution system's not that bad. It would, if we weren't doing the plant, you mean? If we were just doing the distribution system? Mm-hmm. It goes by the most important parts of the distribution system are usually the valves. They need to know where those valves are to shut them off and what condition they're in. And, or at least, we do an initial condition assessment, which is we kind of figure out what year they were put in and what their expected lifetime is, and then that gives us a number of, they're expired and they're low, high risk or low risk in the matrix. But yeah, overall, it would be slightly cheaper for the distribution system. But there's still a bit, quite a bit to it. It's just different. You have your 9 lift stations with a lot of assets versus a distributed number of assets.
Right, excuse me. Right now, you're looking at the wastewater plant And the collection system?
No, just the sewer collection system, just the,
Okay, the wastewater plant's not included.
no,
So this includes the pump stations though, huh?
yes, all the pump stations. and
Valves and all the pipeline.
All the pipeline, yeah.
Do you plan to,
Camera?
a camera?
No, we won't do any cammering with this proposal. It'll be all from our existing, drawings and everything like that that will come up with our prioritization, so.
Well, we have a lot of camera already done and on
Right.
file.
Right, and so usually the way we'll approach it is when we have kind of like rules that the EPA proposed to develop a list of where things are expiring, if you will. When they expire, it doesn't mean that needs to then be thrown out, destroy it and
Right.
replace it. Usually we'll do a condition assessment, further condition assessment, and try to recommission that asset for a new life. We try to factor that into the either 5-year or 20-year plan, right? So you're looking at your assets, do they need attention in the next 5 years or in the next 20 years, or they're good beyond that? So that's when we would do like cammering and the PACP inspection. We're all certified PACP inspectors, MACP. So that's all your NASCO inspection stuff for the collection system. That's when we'd usually do that. You devote that time and effort. Now when there is already footage, we can review that footage and update, and do an inspection. It's not as expensive. So we may do that. We may look at these areas and say, hey, these are like over 40 years old. Do we have any footage on that? And then we can put that footage into the software. It actually saves those files in the program. And then we can then do when we get a chance, we can do PACP on those and determine how bad they are. Because it'll defect code them, and then you can determine, do they need attention and what attention do they need.
How long ago was some of that videoing done?
We've been ongoing for
Yeah, that's
the last 5 years, and I know, I think the supervisor before myself, we did it for quite a few years. It's probably been 10 years we've been doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. That's great information.
Yeah, all those are in the sewer plant.
Some of that just takes, to sit down and review every video, that's extremely
And what we did
time-consuming.
is we reviewed the ones that we had cameraed, and if there was, excess leakage in them, we went in and repaired them.
That's perfect.
So, but I mean, I think we talked about this before, we should have probably applied for the SAW grant at the time, and would that have covered this?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
The SAW grant money is what gets you that further step where you can go in and do all the TVing and do tons of work with that grant.
Now, in this here, it says here, the summary of the items furnished by the owner, a rate study. Are you guys gonna do a rate study also for us, or?
Usually your CPA firm has already done something. It can be a previous.
Well, we have that, we've
Yeah.
had that done,
So
but
we'd use that to
do
then.
they do it, will we get a rate study in the perspective of, the condition of our lines and our lift stations being worn out? I mean, from an
Yeah,
accounting point, it's just, dollars in, dollars out, are we even?
yeah, it's similar. It's what the DEQ wants to see. Less like what we normally would present our rate studies. They have a special way they want to see it, to see that you've covered your bases in terms of capital improvement. So you put enough away, you have enough in a secure investment account. They want to know that number. So there's certain financial items that the DEQ is looking for, and they're kind of generating their own, the risk associated with your system. Are you high risk? Certain communities are not necessarily like charging what they need to charge, so it's almost like they're just going, without much thought. So, but that's usually
This board has
rare.
been very proactive.
Yeah.
It's keeping up
Around
with the
here,
rates, I think,
People are pretty good, yeah.
and not exceeding where we should be, but
That's right.
from those reports, those rate studies is what we've
Yep.
geared ourselves after, but.
Yep.
um,
So accountants wouldn't necessarily know the type of prioritization of assets like the EPA software is developed. So that gives us our where those assets lie and their replacement costs, and then then the rate study that you've already done gets input into that, and it becomes a little bit bigger, I guess, picture, if you will.
We talked about too, Larry, when you and I met, we did talk about doing a rate study. This is somewhat a little bit different. This is just kind of taking the rates that you have and looking at what other improvements are going to need to be made, in not maybe as in-depth as if we were doing a full rate study for you on sanitary or on your water rates and your sewer rates. We'd probably get into more depth on how are you actually doing that right now? What are you taking into account? Are all your rates being properly applied where they should be? You know, are you using capital charges where they should go, and all of that kind of thing, which we're kind of not getting into that depth in this scenario.
Yeah.
I just feel it's something that we as a township have kind of had our heads in the sand a little bit about. We've been very fortunate, the lift stations have worked properly, but I mean, some of them were put in the 60s, and now we're starting to have some pump issues, motor issues. We have some water lines that were put in 1945. So I mean, sooner or later, we're going to have to start looking at this.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
And I think that's what the state's doing with this assets management, aren't they?
That's the idea. That's where you're supposed to be headed, so that you are maintaining and looking forward as to what needs to be done with your system. You know, now obviously too, when we do this and we prepare a capital improvement plan, we're not going to just turn around and go, oh, you've got, you know, 9 pump stations, every single one of them needs to be replaced, and you need, you know, X number of dollars. That's not the way that it works. We're not trying to do that. We'll take you down a path that we think is appropriate, along with your operators, what they've found, what has been the history of the stations, you know, the age of them, and how can we develop a reasonable program to start fixing them. And we're gonna get a good handle on the Urban Drive one right off the bat, because you have some stations that are very similar to that, what that's going to cost and how we can approach that. What's a logical way to approach it? So.
Okay. Anybody on the board have a question?
I have one more. Excuse me. As part of the asset management plan, do you give us a maintenance plan also? I understand valves. Valves they have to be exercised, or it lengthens their life.
Yeah.
You have a good exercise plan. Do you envision giving us that also?
Yeah, your operation maintenance, your O&M, operation maintenance section of the software we use, it's pre-populated. The EPA's pre-populated it depending on what type of system it is, a collection system or distribution system. So we go through and we'll clean that up. That gives us some good pointers as to, are those in our maintenance cards? And then we'll take the maintenance cards from your DPW and we'll put those maintenance cards in that O&M calendar. It's a calendar is what it is, and it has different tasks. Those tasks are assigned to your different assets. You can continually add to that O&M plan, but the point being is that there's an associated cost to each task, and that gets factored into your budget. So that's kind of where they're going with your maintenance is what is your maintenance costing, you know, and allowing you to see that relative to other things, you know, like replacements, a replacement cost versus a maintenance cost. So, but yeah, there's already populated maintenance tasks in there. And I leave them in because they're helpful, you know. Sometimes you wouldn't think necessarily that task should be done. I don't know the operators at least. I said, should I delete them all and we'll just use your maintenance cards, or should we leave them in and add your maintenance cards? And the vote was to leave them in, you know, that they thought they were usable.
One other thing I'd like to add to this, and I was talking with John on the phone the other day, this includes China Township too. And we're going to have to work on how we're going to break that out. So would China Township have their own report that they would have to have for their?
Well, anyone with a permit that has a permit NDP.
Would China have a permit even though the plant's in?
I believe they would.
I'll get a hold of Linda tomorrow and ask her.
Usually they do, each.
They may be able to use our report to cover their,
Of course, yeah, I mean, there's, I'll give you an example, in the whole township, there's like 700 manholes, and 75 of those, of both townships, and 75 of those 700 are in China. So like 10%, roughly. So I left that in.
well, I think I talked to John and we can break that down, we
We
can
can
figure
do
out where we're going. And I think 2 of the lift stations are theirs,
Are they?
1 or
Okay.
2 of them. yeah.
So 2 of our 9 are China's?
I believe the one on St. Clair Highway is China's.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they have another one.
I notice on here you've got,
What's that?
the choir,
They
the
would be,
as-built drawings, are you gonna have a problem getting them from the
That's-
past
Been okay so far.
engineers?
So far, I
I
think
know the
going pretty
township,
smooth.
the township's been after them for years trying to get our share of them, and we haven't yet that I know of.
I mean, I only know Urban Drive. I went with Blaine's, over to Blaine's, and he had his file of Urban Drive, and there was quite a lot of information there. It's all, I scanned it all in, made an electronic copy of that for Blaine, and, you know, gave it back already, so, you know, if it's like that for every one of them, we'll be okay, you know?
I know they go back quite a few years, probably the early 50s or late 40s.
Kathy had a question.
Yeah.
Anthony, is this asset management plan something that is required to be done every single year? Or if we do it once, then we just kind of tweak it at the end of the year and see where we are?
Yeah.
You know, just kind of,
That's right. I mean, it's not every year. They ask you to review your asset management plan and update it. I know some utilities are every year. They have like a deadline. But it's the same report. Once you filled out this program the first time, you can reuse it over and over again. You just add to it or update it, update your numbers in your finance tab, and that's it. Add to the next year, you know, because they have different years. You try to get 3 years back so that it'll project 20 years forward. And then as you get a new year, that becomes reality instead of a projection.
so we keep building
Keep
on
building
this
it.
information base instead of
Yep.
reinventing the wheel every year
Exactly.
and the additional cost. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah.
This would also be a great tool for our asset management committee that we have, that we're forming,
Oh,
to, and it's Greg and the 2 superintendents and Bob Freehand, and so I mean,
Yeah.
those people could work with that.
sure, sure. You can make what you want of it. I picked it because it's free, so you can install it in any number of stations or computers you want. And it's from the EPA, and the DEQ loves everything from the EPA, so we want to make them happy. And it was geared towards utilities. The software is called CUPS, and it stands, CUPSS stands for Checkup Program for Small Systems. When I did the training for it with the EPA to train operators into using it, I asked them, like, well, what is the limitation? You know, why is this for small systems? And the EPA said, well, that was just the name we named it. I said, well, could I, you know, what's the limitation? They said, your computer hard drive. So the bigger your hard drive is, the bigger your system you could put in there. There's a couple graphics features that you wouldn't be able to use if you're doing New York City's sewer system, but you know, everything else could be done in it. So it's really a pretty useful tool.
Is this are you evaluating all the lift stations in here too, capacity-wise and all that?
Yeah, that's the EPA SWIM. That's the district. We call it a collection distribution system model. So that's just a model is tweaked based on your real data. So you would have pipe sizes and everything in the model, and that would tell us what we'd expect to see going on in each station. So if there's a big difference, then you know what you've classified it as. Let's say it's poor, rated poorly, or rated good, and it's totally off from what you would expect it to be. You might want to kick that rating down a bit because it's something going on there, you know. And
I'm just trying to get my arms around what we're doing here. You know?
Sure.
The comment, Larry, this program doesn't really look at your future growth or expansion. Like you and I talked at Wade Trim had already prepared something on your sewer system or your pump stations and capacities and that kind of thing. We're going to look at that. We're going to get our hands on that report. We've already talked about it, and so that we can get a copy.
But you got a copy, didn't you?
Blaine has one, I'll get it.
Okay, yeah, I told him to give it.
He was going to get it for us, definitely. We just haven't had an opportunity yet. But we're going to look at that overall picture as we look at each pump station as well. You know what I mean? We're not going to just focus and say, well, this pump is this size, just let it go. I mean, we're going to look at the future of that pump station. Does it need to be upgraded? Can it be? What can we logically do? So, yeah, we don't just focus on replace the pump that's old. We'll definitely look at the future growth.
Right.
Say, one thing that a lot of communities use, get out of the asset management plan, like thinking about, okay, we're going to have this, we have to have it, it's mandated, but what can we do with it beyond it? The major thing is their I&I studies, so their infiltration and inflow studies, illicit water coming in to the system is getting treated. In certain communities, especially, while ones in the 70s are right on the cusp right now, most of their stuff is coming to 40 years. Some communities in the 50s, that were put in the 50s, you can see there's a big difference in that 20 years. You can see it in terms of the amount of inflow and infiltration into the system. So in those windows of time, and so this kind of factors those in and allows you to hone in on those areas where you maybe need to do more inflow study. We put meters in and determine how bad is that inflow, and then try to figure out where it's coming from. Inflow is, in my opinion, the bigger of the two I's for the plant operators, because when it rains and they get hit with that,
well, that's how we've been doing it.
We don't want that. So
we have high flow on a lift station in one area.
Yeah.
That because we had a big struggle, we know we got a lot of infiltration into our sanitaries.
Yeah, because the use of your sewer hasn't changed. It's the rain, so it shouldn't be in there. So.
No, it shouldn't be a big increase in the capacity of that lift station.
Usually the rule of thumb is like 20%, 20-30% jump. I don't know anybody that's got just that.
Yeah. We got them running lots.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions? We understand what we're looking at here? As far as paying for it, I guess I've been working a little bit on that. I think we can probably pay it out of the capital sewer fund. We have some money in there, so if the board decides to go with it.
Hopefully it's not going to exceed $23,344.
You make a motion? Yeah, that's what it's not supposed to exceed. Right?
I'll make a motion for Project Control Engineering do a study of the water system and wastewater plant for a cost not to exceed $23,344.50.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to accept the proposal from Project Control Engineering for $23,344.50. Does everybody understand what we're doing here? Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Voda.
Yes.
Town, yes. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Blackstock.
Yes.
Simons.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good job.
What you working on?
Yeah. Okay, moving on under new business, we have the revenue and expenditure report of 8/31/17. It's in your packet.
Laura, can I ask, why is this an agenda item and not under the
I
consent
don't
agenda?
know why they put it in there. We had some people off this week, and a different person printed the agenda up, so I think it should have been under the consent.
Correct.
So if we just want to make a motion to receive and file.
Also, receive and file the revenue and expenditure report. Support. I'll support.
Then moved and supported by Mr. Voda and Mr. Blackstock.
Blackstock.
that we receive and file the revenue and expenditure report of 8/31/17. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Moving on to announcements, I'd just like to say that we have the township picnic Saturday. Picked a beautiful day, and I think better than normal turnout.
All the tables are full.
But next year I think we could do better. I think we got talking to people I run into the township, I said, why weren't you here? They go, we didn't even know about it, so maybe we got to do a little more publicizing of it. So. With that, no more announcements that I have. We'll move on to member comments. Mr. Horn.
Yeah, I've been riding around the township on the north end, Larry, are they going to finish those roads? They missed a couple of them up there.
We didn't do them all.
No.
We did the worst
Okay.
ones.
Okay.
And going out to the residents on Hathaway there, we were supposed to have 3/4 of an inch. I see we added a little more than 3/4 of an inch at the side. So the county went in there, I believe it was last Thursday or Friday, and they ground it down on the side so you don't have that dip when they're backing out of your driveways. Sorry it happened, oversight on our part, so the county's adjusted it for us. So I think that's a good thing.
That's all I have.
Mr. Casal?
I was wondering Larry, if we can get we used to have that register with all the phone numbers on it and all the employees and everything, so we have new board members and we don't have.
Well, we updated, I got it on it, Mr. Boder brought it to my attention before the meeting.
Oh, okay.
So I got it on here to update the roster.
Yes.
We have some people that are gone and some people that are new.
Correct.
I'll get that done, yeah.
All right, and the status of the logo? How's that coming?
We haven't got the engineering yet.
You do logos?
Well, remember they said they were gonna send us
Yes.
an engineered drawing before we actually had them take it. But I can double check on it.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Have, excuse me, have they started any work at all on the bike path? Getting weeds out?
Yeah, I don't know, I haven't been out there.
Yes,
Have
yeah.
they started?
They let, with blacktop between Springborn and Bell River Woods. They just started doing blacktop. Last week, they did do all the weeds.
Well, they're not blacktop, they're just putting
It's what they're called seal coating, correct, seal coating. And last week, they did all the weeds and everything was out of there when I went walking down there. And yesterday, I noticed that there is fresh seal coat on it.
So filling the cracks or whatever the actual.
I didn't check the cracks completely, but I mean, it looks like it.
You're supposed to rubber them.
All right, thank you, I have nothing else.
All right. I'll check on that too. Mr. Town?
No comment?
Nothing today.
I don't have a whole lot. One thing is, a couple meetings ago, we talked about this online training as a board. We didn't have a full board, so we really didn't. Is it something the board wants to look at? You know, right now, what our training policies are, I think we all know what it is. Do we want to expand on it, or do we want to change anything? For us to pay for the online training versus the time off. If you want, I can do a little more looking into it. If the board doesn't want to go in that direction, then I won't do any more on it. Just tell them we're keeping the same policy.
Are you asking for our opinions?
Yeah, what? Ms. Miller?
My opinion is the more education that we have for our employees, the better our community and our township will be. I'm all for it.
Okay.
My only concern is that if they're going to be taking these courses online, are they doing it during normal business hours? Now we pay them time off to go to these courses. Are we going to be paying them to be at work while they take the online course that we pay for?
I believe it's a combination of both, that they'll be here doing some at work and some at home. I don't know. I mean, if you want me to look into it a little more, I'll look into it.
I'll just leave it as it is.
Leave it as it is.
They know us, we've been on this merry-go-round before.
Right. Okay. All right, that's all I have. So I guess a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Well, I guess I'll do it. Make a, motion, we adjourn at 8:15.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we adjourn at 8:15. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.